All right, here we go. We are live. Get that scowl off your face, Mr. Jesse Herpel. Look
Hello,
happy.
good morning. Woo, woo, woo.
Good morning.
Happy. I think I might try it.
Yeah. Happy Thursday, everybody. I'm Don Chakowski with Fidelity National Title, and I am excited to kick off this week's Market of the Moment. Sharon is out today. She's not feeling well, but we are joined by much of the regular cast of characters. Mr. Jesse Herpel, the operating principal of Keller Williams Integrity First. Jesse, good morning.
Ladies and gents.
Miss Mindy Jones-Navarez of the Amy Jones Group.
Good morning.
And Amber Kavark, Guild Mortgage. Amber, thank you for joining us. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you.
We missed you last week while you were on the beach, but we understand. So,
I missed you too.
Yeah. But you know, every time Annette comes on, though, she's giving away the money. So when we hear the mortgage update, we're going to be hearing about how you're selling money for almost nothing. So, and this week's special guest, Mr. Tim Cusick with HomeLogic. Tim, thank you so much for joining us this week. And we are excited to talk to you today. You know, last week we spent a lot of time talking about lead generation. Mindy and I and Sharon kind of navigated that conversation. And then from there, we wanted to pivot this week into what we do once we have all of these leads. So we're really excited to talk about that. But before we get to that, Jesse and Mindy, if you guys can tell us what's happening in the market this week. I know that we've seen things kind of continue as normal, but love to hear your take on what we're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. So we just did actually a review of the market this morning here in our market center. It's something we're doing every Thursday morning. We've talked about that there's more of the same, but we are starting to see some interesting things happen as we head into the end of the new year. We know that we've been talking about declining inventory, and it is no surprise that we are now actually under 7,000 available homes for sale on the MLS. We are at 6,998 homes available for sale. If we were to take a historical look and give you some perspective on what that number means, if we look 2 years ago, we had 18,410 listings on the market. So we've got about half of what we typically have, and in some years, even a third of what we typically have this time of year. We expected as we went into the fourth quarter for that number to continue to decline because, as you can imagine, there's plenty of folks who don't want to get their home on the market between Thanksgiving and New Year's. But typically what happens is that we've also got some buyers who pull back during Thanksgiving and New Year's. And so when those two things happen, the inventory drops, but not as dramatically as we've seen it drop this year. So it's been interesting to watch the increase in buyer demand even during the holiday season. We talked a lot about it this morning. We've got contracts up quite a bit year over year in spite of that low inventory. We're actually up about 35%. So we saw about 12,299 contracts under contract. And so we would need to get about 25,000 new listings in a single month for a couple of months in order for us to even get close to getting caught up, which is not something that any of us anticipate actually happening. So it has been interesting. I think circumstances are obviously a little different this holiday season. Folks don't have as many parties to go to. They're not traveling quite as much. Some of the distractions that typically come up for our buyers aren't happening. So I'm not really surprised that the buyer demand hasn't quelled at all. And then of course you've got buyers who've been trying to find something and they just know that they can't afford to pull back from the market right now. So our lowest inventory day is usually January 1st. We were at about 27 days on market, meaning if we didn't list any other homes after today, it would take less than 4 weeks for all of that inventory to be gone. And I think, you know, my projection is that we'll probably hit around 16 or 18 days on the market come January 1st. So it'll be interesting to see how close to that number we really get. I think what it does, though, is it challenges us to figure out who we really need to be talking to and who really needs our help in this type of a market. And so we've identified a couple of different populations. One is our renter population. So a couple of things to note about our renters. They are probably at the greatest risk for losing their housing right now. You can imagine their landlords are seeing 17 to 20% appreciation depending on where they are. And all they have to do is give a renter 30 days notice and let them know that they want to sell their house. It's a very likely scenario for renters. We had several clients this year call and say, in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of my kids being schooled from home, we've got 30 days notice and we have to move out. So we worked real quickly to get them pre-qualified. They also, with the moratorium, which may end at the end of the year, obviously it could be extended, but if it's not extended, it's very easy to start the the eviction process in Arizona. You miss one payment as a renter, they can start the eviction process versus as a homeowner, right? You've got some time before that foreclosure process starts. So I anticipate that we're going to have some potential issues with renters needing to find housing. And there's going to be a lot of challenges that we need to work through for people. But when the world is very uncertain, the best that we can do is make our small world, our immediate world, as certain as possible, right? And so I think as our clients continue to reflect on the uncertainty of the world as a whole, the best question that we can ask them is your job secure? Is your financial situation secure? And if we can get to a level of security for your immediate family, your immediate home life, what kind of wall do we need to build around that? And how do we do that to ensure that you can weather whatever storm, whatever things continue to come our way? So that's one big population that we've been focused on.
Well, I would like to chime in on that a little bit. I love the fact that you brought up the is it noisy for me?
We can hear it.
Is it? Okay. So when, as Mindy said, when the world is uncertain, people turn to their homes, become more important than ever. And I think that's one thing that we're experiencing, right? How in a pandemic and a low inventory market, one thing to really pay attention to, and I say this every time we talk, is we have more listings coming to the market than we ever have. And yet we still have a low inventory market, which simply put, demand is outpacing the number of listings that are coming to the market, even though listings are at an all-time high in our particular market, right? So the question is where is that opportunity for you as an agent, and how do you get your unfair share of that? It doesn't mean that you have to take less listings. So I really want to make that very clear. As an organization, we've taken 22% more listings year over year in a low inventory market. So I just want to point that out, because when you hear that, a lot of agents think, oh, well, that's diminishing my opportunity. And actually it's not. It doesn't have to. So, and as it relates to the rental market, and I know we're going to talk about lead conversion today, when you look at, can I share my screen, Don?
Yes, absolutely.
When you look at the strength of our market, and a lot of times you hear, well, is this gonna bust? Is this a bubble? It's not. It is not. It is completely different than what we experienced in 2005, 6, and 7. And you can see this in when you look at like Mindy was sharing my screen here.
When you asked if you could share your screen, Jesse, I didn't know if you were asking me or asking yourself. So
well, that was a double-sided question there. Now
I don't think we got the right window on though.
Can you see that?
Go. Yeah, now we're good.
Okay, so one thing to look at is, as you talk about the rental market, is the rental rates, right? And if you look at what the rental rates have done in the last 2 years and 4 years, even if you go 4 years back, 2 years back, and then this year, rents have increased 16% in the last 6 months.
6 months.
Yes.
Yeah, that's huge.
So when you look at that, what is the conversation that you should be having? And I'll stop sharing here. What's the conversation you should be having with your database and with folks that are in a rental type situation?
Right, absolutely. Talking to them about why it's time to buy, right, and that they can lock down a mortgage payment that's the same every month instead of being at the decisiveness of the landlord who decides whether or not they're going to raise or lower rent. Will never lower, it seems.
Right. Right. And another thing that another thing you want to look at, I'm gonna go. Another thing you want to look at is when you see the rental rates increasing like they are, that is an indicator of the strength of the market. Okay, so what's the other conversation we should be having as it relates to return on investments? Building wealth through real estate investment properties with your database. So if your rental rate just in the last 6 months has gone up 16%, what did your ROI just do? If you own.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if you don't, the best time was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So these are the conversations we should be having with our databases and taking them through what it looks like to build wealth through real estate and real estate investment, and most likely can do it with the equity they have sitting in their existing home right now if they own a home, because of the appreciation we've experienced the last 12 months.
Yeah,
and I'm going to change rooms here.
Okay, important on that, to note on that though, Jesse, I think is that even if you're calling non-owner occupied, if that's one of your lead streams, that when they say that they're not interested in selling that home, then maybe that conversation can pivot to the value of doubling down on their investment, right? That there is, that they can continue, since this investment's working so well for you, have you thought about doubling down on that investment and picking up another property?
And also, I think coming from a place of contribution, like Jesse talked about before, especially if you're an out-of-state rental property owner, you may not even know what's been happening with rental rates here. So I think if that is part of our call list and we're having that conversation, or even with our own clients, that we're making sure that if they aren't interested in selling, they're not interested in doubling down, that we have a conversation about what a competitive rental rate looks like now, and giving them the outlook and what we see, sharing the graph that Jesse just shared so that people understand what's actually happening in the rental market. I think the other piece that's interesting and a part of this conversation too is that these rental rates, this is the opposite of what happened in the crash, right? In the crash, rental rates were plummeting, right? Because there weren't real people. Now population growth has outpaced our new inventory that we've added to the market from a building perspective for 10 plus years. So when that happens year over year after year, we just get further and further into the hole. And so at that time, the idea of potentially renting out your house and going to get into a better solution for you, whether it was a cheaper house or using the overage towards, getting caught up from a forbearance situation or any other financial situation that you might be in, that wasn't an option. Whereas now it's a very viable solution if a homeowner is facing, the end of their forbearance period, or they're having some expected financial situation coming up and they're just not sure how they're going to deal with it. They've got options to both stay in their home and move out of their home that can be financially beneficial to them. So even if someone isn't in an environment where they're facing that, there are some solutions where they can leverage their asset either through sale or through by pulling the equity or by leveraging it as a rental to start to build equity and also, growth through a financial real estate portfolio, and then get into a better solution for them. So I think all of those things are indicators, like Jesse said, of the strength of the market. And we're not trying to convince people of that. I just think the problem is many people they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and they're trying to find out what the catch is, right? And I think
Mindy got stuck.
Stuff is going to change overnight and will change. Oh, I did?
You're back normal. It may have been on my side. So you're good.
Oh.
You're good. No worries.
Anyways, you get the gist, right? I mean, we've got essentially federally subsidized interest rates right now. This is just an opportunity that people will not always be able to take advantage of. And as the potential for a vaccine comes out, and the potential that we may be able to stabilize the corona cases, and the potential for the market to recovery, all of these unknowns, but as there's a potential for that to stabilize, more likely the government will pull out their intervention. And that's really one of the big things that can change for our consumers. The supply and demand situation, this will not change overnight.
Okay.
So the takeaways are low inventory market is going to continue to be highly competitive through 2021. Interest rates are predicted to stay relatively low. I think Amber is going to share with us, and it's a great time to invest and get capture return on investments through real estate investment. So the question becomes, as a consumer, how do you take advantage of that? And as a real estate agent, how are you positioning yourself to get your unfair share of a very rapid moving market that you've got to get to quickly if you're representing the buyer, and you have to be very competitive and strategic on how you're going and taking your listings.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, and thank you guys both for so much information this morning. I think that as we continue to navigate through this, it's important that we're always looking for those different ways to leverage our relationships and be able to support those people who we work with. So really good information. Thank you guys so much. I do want to make sure we make the pivot over to Miss Amber, because we know that without the money, it's pretty hard to make any of this happen, right? So,
sure.
So Amber, can you give us some insight? What's it looking like out there? And we saw the FHA and the conventional loan limits increase, or that they're going to be increasing.
Yes.
So some insight into that, and then what we are seeing in the interest part.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So yeah, loan limits went up on both conventional and FHA. So conventional now is at 548,250. So that means that you can have a client with a 3% down payment, which is the minimum on conventional, buy a home as high as $565,000 with a minimum down payment, which is great news for our market as we're seeing home prices appreciate. And then FHA went up to $368,000. I can't remember the last time that the FHA max loan limit has been just like a even number like that. It's almost weird, but 368, and that means with a minimum 3.5% down payment, they're buying at like a $381,000 sales price. So if you haven't already, get the news out to your database. We're always looking for great reasons to touch base, and this is a great reason. This is good news. There's buyers on the sideline that didn't think that buying was possible for them, or didn't think that they needed to go into jumbo and didn't have the down payment. So this is good stuff. So get it out, make sure they know about it. And then the other thing is just talking to your clients strategically about the market and having to offer over list price. I mean, most of the contracts I see coming in are over list price. There's multiple offers, and we want to make sure that we're proactive in that strategy. So just last week, we had a loan where I'd already talked to the client about the potential that she might have to go in over list price, which may potentially be over appraised value. So she was prepared, and we had a strategy around it. So she bought a home and offered $25,000 over list, and the appraisal came in $17,000 under the appraisal, or under the sales price. So we were $17,000 gap. And so in her scenario, she had two choices. It took her from a 90% loan to value due to the lower appraisal to a 95% loan to value. And her mortgage insurance was going to go up $22 a month, or she was going to come in with $3,600 to completely buy out the mortgage insurance. She chose the higher monthly. So her down payment stayed exactly the same as it would have if it would have appraised at sales price. But we made up a $17,000 gap between appraisal and sales price with a $22 a month increase in mortgage insurance. And she was so pumped. She won the house. She loved it. She was completely comfortable with her payment. So we're doing that a lot right now, proactively and also defensively, in a situation where it comes in low and the buyer cannot make up the difference. So just know that's out there. If you have questions on it, it's kind of confusing, let me know and I'd be happy to walk you through it. In regards,
and for the listing agent to know that too, right? I mean, that's I think the key here is it's always been important for the two agents to work really well together, right? That relationship is so important, and with any of the partners that are involved in the transaction, because our goals are to help our clients get to their goals. And sometimes that requires us to help them get out of their own way, right? It's normal, they're emotional, there's a lot of things that are going on for them. And so for both the listing agent and the buyer's agent to be able to communicate about these things and help both parties move forward, that is something that's going to be imperative as we continue in this type of environment. So if you're educated out there about this as a listing agent, you run into this situation, don't that the buyer's agent knows about this type of program. Don't assume that they work with a lender like Amber who understands how these things work and understands how to get creative. That's an opportunity for you to reach across the table and say, hey, I've got a solution that might work. Let me talk to you about what it sounds like. I can connect you with my preferred lender and she can kind of explain how this could look.
Yes, because the buyers want to buy the house, like they're not happy about the appraisal coming in low. They want to try to figure out how to make it work. And so we've got to be creative in these solutions right now. I had another client last night that was like set that they were going to be a contingent buyer and they had to sell first because all of their money was trapped in their home. And I blew their mind when I talked about, let's put a line of credit on your house right now before it's on the market. We'll extract enough equity to put 20% down. You'll go buy your home. And then once you sell, you'll take as much of those proceeds as you want and put them down against the loan that we just closed, and we'll re-amortize your payment for you and give you the payment you always would have wanted at no cost at your convenience. And it will allow you to actually win your offer. And it took them a little while. They were a little bit older, but they're like, oh my gosh, like this changes everything for us. And I'm like, I know, like we can make this happen, So it's really exciting to be creative and strategize with our clients right now, because you've got to have all the tools right now to win offers. I mean, it's not easy. Everyone's working harder than ever before to get buyers in. And when you get one in, you're like, oh my God, we got it. It's accepted, holy smokes. And I think it's okay too to realize that not every buyer is meant to buy in this market. When I talk to a client that's like, I want to buy at $275 and I want $1,000 payment and I have a 3.5% down payment, it's like, that doesn't exist. So you have two options. You can either look in your budget to figure out how you can afford more every month, or you can reduce your budget down and start looking at, condos, townhomes, manufactured homes. Which one is it? Because that's not a reality in today's market, right? And they just might not be able to buy, if they can't be aggressive and go in and offer over and all that stuff. So
I think that here's what I love about what you're talking about, Amber, is that you're coming up with solutions and education, right? Because, and it's really easy to work in this business and to be blinded by all of the things that are around us all the time, and just to expect other people to know and understand these things. But that's not the case for the general public, right? They're not, having these conversations every day like you guys are. So it's important that when we are in those situations, that we take the time, show a path of a way that we can get to our end goal, right? So you're not going to get a $250,000 house with 3% down for $1,000 a month. That's not happening. So let's talk about what we can live with and a way to build our way up to that house.
Yeah.
Right? So
I think the overriding message is that you don't have to know all of this information. What you do need is a team around you that can deliver the information on your behalf in the best interest of your client. Right.
And I think you need to get good about asking questions.
Yes.
Right.
Speaking of questions, we got Timmy Boy Troubadour Tim Cusick on the call today.
Well, actually, one more thing before we jump to Tim. Edgar Chavez, I know you guys remember Edgar. He was on a couple weeks ago. He made a comment I just thought we should share with everybody. So,
that is good.
We don't want to miss out on things like this, right?
Well, and I think one last thing too, that what I hear so much from clients that are coming from being a renter to a buyer right now is when we talk to them about what does your monthly budget look like for a mortgage payment, and they give me the number, 9 times out of 10, when I ask them, how'd you come up with that number? They're like, well, that's what I pay in rent. And if you just left it at like, okay, they want $1,000 payment, and then you told the realtor, like, they got to stay at $1,000, this is where they're comfortable, but you didn't dig deeper into like, okay, well, how does $1,000 feel for you right now? Is there anywhere where you could cut back? Like, my message is, now is not the time to shortchange yourself. Like, you're going to have to really max out that budget to get into the house. So I want to make sure that that $1,000 number is really, truly your max. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of time looking at homes that aren't going to meet your needs. And then we're going to go back and go, okay, actually I can get up to 1,500, so we just want to get that out of the gate. Let's make sure we figure out what your true max is. Look at that budget really in detail.
I think that goes back to the asking questions thing though, because usually when you ask them what they want to pay and they give you their rent amount, it's because they think that the deal is for them to pay what they pay now and get something different or better. And so they feel like if they're paying more in a monthly, they might as well just stay where they're at. And I think that's where we have to have that conversation. I don't think it's usually about, is it their max, or even if it's just what they're comfortable with. I think it's that. It's them feeling like, well, if I pay $1,000 a month and I like what I have, why wouldn't I just stay with this? And I think that's where we have to get into the education of, you're paying $1,000 a month, you're not getting anything in return. We're seeing people that are putting $1,000 in, maybe $500 more a month, but their return is $25,000 or $50,000 in a year.
Yeah, you're paying somebody's mortgage. You might as well pay your own.
Right. Yep. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Mr. Tim, you still there, Tim?
I'm here.
Tim. The reason I wanted to jump over, because Tim has been in the business for many, many years and does a phenomenal job in representing clients and navigating through different markets. And I just wanted to ask you, Tim, and then let Don go back to his agenda. But what are you doing what are you giving people that are renters or investors, or how are you explaining and helping them through the opportunity of purchasing and or becoming an investor?
Wow. That's a big question, Jesse. Are we going to drill down specifically to how we want to attract the investors, what our message is to the investors, what the media deliver that message is? How do you start that? Okay. Dawn, do you have an idea of who is participating in the call? Do we have novice agents? Do we have
all different levels? And it stays on Facebook so people can watch it later. So it's not like, so people might watch this tomorrow or over the weekend or something.
Give us an infomercial, so if they want more information, they can reach out to you and get more from you, Tim.
Yeah, Jesse, I'm always available. I think that the majority of people that have come in contact with me realize my passion is to help our industry so that the perception of the consumer sees us as professionals. So unfortunately, as everybody's aware of, the late night television show says, make lots of money in real estate and you can have your own schedule and it all happens overnight. That's not the reality. So I'm here to help anyone that needs any assistance at any time.
Tim, so one of the things that we wanted to spend some time today on was working on that whole lead generation piece, or it's what we spent time on last week. But today we want to talk a little bit more about lead conversion. And so, when it comes to converting leads, whether it's an investor or whether it's just somebody looking for their first home or somebody looking for that move up home. So can you tell us, we spent a lot of time talking about the lead generation piece. First, what is your best lead generation source? What works the best for you?
I work by referral. So I know that's a corny little thing, but we'll talk about what I do and how I do to work my sphere of influence. Is there a possibility I can back this up for just a little bit first? Okay. So let's shake it a little bit first, because we've all been sitting down. Let's take it from 30,000 feet, and then let's just take it and go down one piece at a time. So I was taught 30 years ago when I first got in the industry, someone put on a board. They put, for example, contract experience. I was brand new in the industry. I had no idea what the contract was, and nothing right, nothing wrong, guys. Back then it was one page, and it was carbon copy, and we said press hard 2 copies. They put market knowledge. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but if you listen to anything the team shared with you this morning, market knowledge is really important. You've got to know if it's a seller's market or buyer's market and be able to articulate to the person across from you what the market's doing. The other thing that was put on the board was prospecting. Another thing that was put on the board was presentations, your listing presentation or your dress code or whatever that was. And they went through and said, is it contract presentation? Is it your market knowledge? Is it your listing presentation? Is it prospecting? What's the most important thing? And I thought it was contract experience because I was trying to help someone write a contract and purchase a house. What I was told, though, is does anyone know what the most important thing is out of those 4 things? It's prospecting. Yeah. You might be the smartest person in the room. You might have the best presentation in the room. You might know more than anybody else about Avondale or Gilbert, but if you don't prospect to get the person to talk to you about those things, you're never going to make a sale. So I don't care what the market does. I would like you to know what the contract is. I'm not so concerned about your presentation, but if you don't prospect, you'll never be able to convert that prospect. So to focus on what you asked me to talk about, Dawn, in the sense of lead conversion, first you have to prospect to be able to work on conversion.
Right.
There are many ways to prospect. Amber probably has her ways. Jesse has her ways, his ways, excuse me. Everybody's got different ways to bring people in to what people describe as the funnel. The question is, can you have a higher conversion rate? In other words, use your time effectively to have a quality of life. Because right now, I still see a lot of people on the real estate roller coaster. They go out and get 2 leads. They go and show those properties. They go and close those transactions, and then they have no more business. So when you ask me the best thing or the best source of my business, Dawn, by far it is my sphere of influence. And the reason for that is, I don't know about you guys, but let's just take this for example. Amber, if you knew someone that was buying or selling real estate, do you know someone that you would refer them to?
Yes.
And if I might ask, why would you refer them to that person?
Because I trust her and I know she'll take great care of my clients and I like her.
The first word, does anybody hear what that first word was?
Trust.
Trust. I don't know about you guys, but it's hard for me to trust the internet. Someone's told me to trust Amazon and then they've delivered and now I trust them. So if you're out prospecting and you haven't developed trust, how do you expect to convert that person? So first thing is trust. Next, Amber told me she already knows someone that she would refer somebody to. I bet you if I asked everybody else out there, they know somebody else they would refer somebody to too. So the majority of business in real estate is relationship based. If the majority of real estate is relationship based, what are you doing as an individual to develop that relationship? So if you have lead generation methods, you've got to develop trust and you've got to develop a relationship. That's very tough to do in today's world because we all have this and it's working against us to attract in other directions. So to go back to what you asked me specifically to discuss, what we've done is we have found a way to systematically develop the trust in the relationship, and it's just called consistency with the messages that we deliver, the frequency that we deliver, and the media that we use to deliver it. For example, when someone comes into us, they will get tagged. They will then get solicited by us via text, phone, email, snail mail. And within that, there's also a video component. The message that's delivered is specific to them, and it's delivered 8 times within the first month and a half. So I'd be glad to break that down for you guys and share you what it is, but I will tell you that the majority of people will take the low-hanging fruit and forget about everybody else on the tree. That's fine and dandy.
Yeah, and the shame of that, Tim, is that they've spent the same money to get that, and the same effort to get in front of all these other people that they're just, they're grabbing that low-hanging fruit, but they put towards all this effort, time, energy, and probably money to get in front of these other folks that they're just kind of moving past. Which is why I wanted to make sure we were having this conversation today, because having a systemized, like what you're discussing is so important, because you get busy and you do take your hands off the wheel a minute, and and that's a concern. So having systems of people and processes to keep things in place for you, super important if you're going to be a good lead converter, correct?
Well, and how many people make a life-changing move the very first time they reach out for information?
Right.
There's not that many, Mindy. The biggest thing for me is when I got in the industry, and Jesse, probably for you too, Mindy, I apologize. I don't know how long you've been doing this, but what you'll find is I've discovered the majority of people nowadays versus before take anywhere from 12 to 18 months to make that transition. So I don't know the audience out there, and I apologize if I offend anyone, but realize when I grew up, it was sex, drugs, rock and roll. That's it, guys. That's all we talked about.
That's our audience,
So if I just lost half our audience, I apologize. But nowadays, guys, it's kids and divorce, it's politics and this little thing called a pandemic, and then real estate. Because when you're sitting in your bed, it's not sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's, oh, honey, look what the house down the street listed for, because we all have it on our phones nowadays.
Yeah.
So that's fine and dandy, but it doesn't change.
Because when you sobered up, it was no more fun. I mean, come on. So Tim, what I love what you're saying is you got to have. I want to try and snapshot a couple things that you have said. Is you have a systematic way of communicating to the relationships within your database. And if you don't, you are in very much so, like Don was saying a little bit ago, with low-hanging fruit, to me is a very reactive way of doing business. And when you're in a very reactive way of conducting your business, it's a very stressful way of conducting business. And it's very unpredictable. So when you understand that conversion and lead conversion is truly a relationship building game, and it is over time that this occurs, and over time it compounds, because you're truly building a business that is predictable, sustainable, and profitable, then you understand that you can't do it off of memory. And you understand that you got to have tools in a systematic way that every single person that comes into your world gets treated. This is the Tim Cusick way of doing it. This is the Amy Jones Group way of doing it. When somebody comes into our world, this is how they're treated. This is how many times we touch them. And if I can, I'll share some statistics with you that'll back up what Tim's sharing with us as it relates to. I'll go to this right here. 23% of consumers use the same real estate agent that they use to buy or sell their last transaction. Okay. 74% of them said they would use the same agent again. Now, the difference between those two numbers is staggering. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And the biggest difference is because of the lack of communication that we're having with our clients on an ongoing basis, and communicating and building relationships over time that are meaningful and more. Tim said earlier, he has a video that goes out and a message that goes out specific to the need of the client. He's speaking directly to them. That's called a one-to-one type message versus a one-to-many message, right? Meaning taking a big group of people and sending one message out of it, and it's really going to resonate with 4 people out of 10,000.
I got to tell you guys, the first time somebody ever sent me a BombBomb video, I thought they sent it to me via text, and I was just like, this is so cool. And I showed like everybody I knew that video. Later, I learned about the back end piece where they're like, you're getting notified, and they probably felt like, I'm some kind of weirdo now looking at their video over and over again. But I was just
in your Santa suit.
Yeah. I was, but I just thought, like, how cool that this person took the time to send me this personal video to connect with me. And so the fact that you guys incorporate that video piece into your business, Tim, is huge. That is, because I can tell you the impact it had on me was really big. And I probably watched that video 30 times before I realized about the back end piece. And that they could tell every time I watched it.
And I think that automated systems and tools, or systems and tools in general, for folks who may not have them or feel like, like Tim said, I only work by referral, I only work my sphere. I think sometimes people are like, I don't do automated, or I don't need systems, or I don't need tools, or whatever it is. But I think these things are not intended to take place of your personal conversations. They're not intended to take place of the phone call that you touch people with multiple times throughout a year. They're intended to help you build a business that's larger than you are able to do with just your own 2 hands. And so I think sometimes it's just a mindset shift for people. if you creating content that's regular for your clients and systematic for your clients that you believe in and that you think is valuable, then you're not going to feel like you're spamming your clients. You're using an automated system or a tool and a process in order to ensure that nothing falls through the cracks. It's not a replacement. It's the same like social media. Social media is not intended to replace your communication with people. It's meant to augment what you're able to do in a day.
Yeah, I think that, well, part of the system is the voice-to-voice communication, right? I'll share one more thing with you real quick if I can, because I think it's important to your point. Here's a plan. Here's a sample plan. 4 touches a year on a 19 to connect. We know that it takes 19 to connect a lead. And in our mind, a lead is somebody that is a one-way conversation, not a two-way conversation yet, right? A contact is somebody that you're having a two-way conversation with. But it's 4 touches that is a year, that's a quarterly phone call. 12 touches that are monthly email, newsletter, market report, or video. 2 touches are promotional direct mail, such as a magnet, calendar, annual calendar, market report, and an annual client appreciation event. And then once they are a contact, which means they've moved from a lead to a contact, it's 36 touches, which still incorporates 4 times a year you're having a personal phone call with them or somebody from your team if you have a team. 26 touches by email, right? Event, 2 touches with events, get-togethers, parties, etc., and 4 touches are direct mail, magnet, etc. So to Mindy's point, it's not replacing anything. It's that is the system that is inclusive of one-to-one voice-to-voice conversations, right?
And Jesse, that kind of leads me to my next question for Tim to talk about when we talk about, like, you mentioned earlier that you work by referral. So much of your business is by referral, Tim. Do you track that? Do you track those kind of numbers of which leads are converting for you? The referral leads versus any other activities that you and your team are doing?
100%.
Why is that important?
I have a couple of kids. And if you're in real estate, the phone can ring at 6 a.m. and 11:30 p.m.
Uh-huh.
And if it's a Zillow lead, you don't pick up the phone, they just call the next person.
Right.
So I don't mean to get serious at this particular moment, but if you guys want a life, you better treat real estate like a business. And you better strategize, as everybody shared with you, and you better get systematic. So it's important to me to track that, because if I work by referral, I want to thank the person that provided that referral to me, and I want to get another referral from them. So what we want to find out is, where did that referral come from? And is that person that referring us, that person, willing and able to refer us another person? So I know you guys mentioned that I said I work my sphere. I work my sphere very diligently, but realize I hunt within my sphere to find people that are willing, able to refer me business. To convert them, we use an 8-touch method, which I shared with you, is a combination of text, email, video, snail mail, all the stuff that we do to communicate with them. And then, as Jesse mentioned, he has stressed to us the importance to stay in touch with them and be top of mind throughout the year. I think he mentioned 19 and then 36 or something to that effect.
Yeah.
So we actually touch everyone in our sphere 33 times throughout the year, and we do it in a multitude of ways. So I'm willing to share the 8x8 touch, the 33 touch, any of that stuff to drill it down further for you guys. What can I help Dawn, Amber, the other Mindy, the other guests on the screen to talk about specifically to help them, whether it's the big picture or just little tools to use? What do you think would be best?
Well, I think that right now we're really kind of talking a lot of generalizations about the things that are the most impactful. But I know, Tim, I know you, and I know that you are a really helpful person and want to get out there and get involved with people. So if you're okay with it, I hope you are, because I already put it on the screen. Your phone number, your email address, and because if people want access to those systems, I know you share them, and that you're very willing to do that. So this is the best ways, and we'll leave this up here for a couple of minutes for people that might want to reach out to Tim. But so really, we're looking at high level stuff today, Tim. And ideally, the people that want to dig in more with you can reach out to myself, Mindy, Jesse, or Amber, and we can help put them in touch with you as well if they've got questions about some of the things that you're doing and how they can incorporate that in the business themselves.
Okay, so how can we talk high level? Do you want to go back to the beginning when a prospect comes to us? Do you want to go?
Yeah, why don't we? Yeah, so why don't we talk about what happens when a new prospect enters your world? Either through a referral or through Zillow or through some other outreach program that you've got going on.
Okay, so we're probably a little more advanced than the person just getting started. So the person just getting started might know 10 friends, and those 10 friends might know 5 more friends to refer to them. So they might go in a bucket. We have got more specific buckets because we have decided to be more direct with our message rather than innocuous with our message. For example, when you said, Don, when someone comes in by referral or comes in by Zillow or comes in from a builder or comes in from the Maricopa County courts, we could make one general message for each one of those people that come to us, but unfortunately they don't feel the relationship is established there because I'm just sending a blanket message. So the first thing that we've done is we have found a way to systemize them and dump them in the right bucket. And we have decided to go 3 deep because if it's a Zillow buyer, that's different than a Zillow seller. If that's different, a Zillow buyer 90 days might be different than a Zillow buyer 1 year. So we've decided to go 3 deep with the buckets, and then once they get in that specific bucket, there is messages tailored specifically for them. The media delivery is identical each time, whether it's a text, an email, a thank you card, or a video. That media delivery is identical, but the message that's sent to them is very different. So what I want you guys to understand is that message is specific for them, and it's to build trust and to build the relationship. At the very beginning, when we first started out, guys, everybody was talking about tools, competency. I don't know if you heard it, but there's no new loan limits. Amber challenged all of you guys to send that out. I don't know why you guys wouldn't take advantage of that and send that out. If you're concerned about how you send it out, pick up the phone and call them. Send out a bulk text. There are many, many tools that Fidelity can provide to you, that your broker can provide to you, that your partners, your lender can provide to you, that will help you structure that message and deliver that message, but send it out. Competency is key because you will not develop that trust. You will not develop that relationship unless you can prove that you're smarter than their mom. You're fighting against their mom. You're fighting against their brother. You're fighting against family members and friends that have the trust that you haven't developed yet. There's no way you're going to beat out the mom that needs money this week. The only way you can do that is develop a level of expertise and do it through consistency and be there for them. I don't know about you guys, but Amber has someone to refer out. Ask that question to anybody you come in contact with as a prospect. If they have someone they're going to refer out, they're most likely going to use that person as their real estate agent. Find out why they would refer that person out, and that's why they're going to use that person. And if you can't figure out what that button is, you're just sending out messages and wasting time. So to answer your question, Dawn, the first thing we do is find out the specifics about that prospect, and then we deliver the message specific to that prospect.
It's funny, Tim, because my next question that I had on my list was to talk to you about, do all lead conversion tactics work equally with all people? But I think you've kind of answered that in your last question, right? Or in your last answer, in that you learn about the people so you can answer them appropriately, right? And I think this is a good example. If somebody's not on Facebook and you're sending them, and you're like, oh, well, check out my Facebook video or check out whatever, then that's not really a good way to communicate with them, right?
They'll never get it. And that's why there's multiple media. So they might do text, they might do Facebook, but they don't answer their phone. Yeah. So we'll call them, we'll snail mail them, we'll email them, but they're only responding to the text message. So the message is very similar, but the media that we deliver is different. And the only reason, Don, why we have gotten specific with that is because I want a quality life. When the phone rings, they'll wait for me to call them back in 3 hours because they know I'm the best person, because we've already established the trust.
That's a good
So
point.
this all came from having a quality life and building a business that was a business that wasn't handcuffs and a shackle.
Yeah. Well, I think we've all spent a lot of time talking about speed to lead in the past, how quickly and how important it is. But it's funny you bring that up, that once you have trust, then they're like, okay, well, Tim's probably busy now. I'm sure he'll call me back later on today when he's got some time. But it doesn't happen in the beginning, right? That's not in those first stages.
And don't get me wrong, speed to lead is critical. If I've got 5 other people that I'm competing with for a Zillow lead, don't think I'm not going to be the first one to go after them. But I'll also be the first person to go after them a second time, a third time, a fourth time, and I'll have a specific message delivered to them. So they might have come to me through a Zillow lead, and their mom might be a realtor, but I'll be damned if in 1 year they're not using me versus their mom.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Sounds great. Okay, so I had my next question that I had set up was, about and I think we've kind of answered a lot of these, but just to kind of revisit is like, how often do you try to contact the lead? So if you had a new lead from Zillow, how many times do you try to contact them, and what does that look like?
Specifically, there's a call. So the initial is a communication. If we can't speak with them with a call, they get written a thank you note. If the thank you note cannot be mailed to them, it gets emailed to them or it gets texted to them. So there's a thank you for the interest in our services. After that, if we do not have their email, we will call or text again to try to capture that email. After the email, after we capture their email, we send an email out with a video with a market update. So we want to explain to them what's going on in the marketplace at this time. If it's a seller or buyer, it's a different message that gets delivered. After that, there is a text. After that, there's another email. After that, there's a call. And after that, there's a video email. So there's an endorsement in that email. There are 8 touches right out of the chute within the first month and a half. So that first 6 weeks, they get touched 8 times. During the year, as Jesse explained, there are touches to the people that have been in communication. So what we have found is if we reach out to them that many times up front, by the time the month and a half is over, they know exactly who we are, what we do, and how we do it. So then it's just staying in touch with them and introducing them more to showing them how much we're the expertise in our field. So when you ask what we do after that, it would be, we send out a couple publications. People call it now, I think I'm going to say, a letter of the heart. That's just a personal message from us on what we do and how we do it. We send out 6 what we call evidence of success, which is just an endorsement or an example, a story of what we've done to help somebody else out. We send out 12 market updates. We video 4 market snapshots. We send out something for their birthday, and we send out a Christmas card. Jesse, I think you had mentioned a client party. There are a bunch of different ways to touch them. All that is consistency and top of mind. That's all that is, Don.
Excellent.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be difficult either. The simplicity, we have a tendency in our business, and I think this is human nature, to make things complex. We want to make them more complex than they need to be. And the success is in the simplicity. For example, our team did zoo lights, right? Well, all we had to do is show up and set up the booth and sign people in and let them go enjoy the zoo lights, right? As an example, I know Mindy does a lot of client appreciation events. So it doesn't have to be cost intensive, and it doesn't have to be labor intensive to have these kinds of platforms that allows you to connect and add value to your database and their families.
Keep it simple. Can you guys read that at all or no?
10 conversion, 10 conversations, 20 days and 11 months equals 22 sales a year.
There you go, Jesse.
Hey, speaking of events, Matt Christ just walked in the room here. He is our director of technology, and we have a really cool event for the community that I want to share with you guys. And if you're interested in participating, he's going to share with you how to do that, what it is. Tell us about the event.
Yeah, of course. Well, this year, we, of course, love Christmas. We love being able to get gifts for our kids, our family, and everything. Everybody loves that feeling. And so this year, as a market center, we are participating in something called Affordable Christmas, which is happening here on December 19th and 20th. We are opening up our market center as a store for parents of foster children to be able to come in and pick out toys for the kids that they want. Typically, you'll see angels on trees, and you'll be able to pick out things for families. But this year, we're letting the families be able to decide what to give their children so that they can feel that they were able to participate and get the kids what they want for Christmas. And so it's easy. We just want toys, clothes donated to our office so we can open up the store before the 19th. There's an Amazon wish list that we'll be able to post up here later, or up on the Market of the Moment Facebook group, where you can just order and it can come shipped right straight to here. And it's just going to bring be a huge part of the community. We're going to have wrapping stations. There's going to be a Santa Claus. There's going to be so much stuff for these foster kids, and we're so excited to be able to help them out. Us personally at Keller Integrity First, we are donating about $2,500 towards the cause. Because we know that not everyone's able to have a Christmas party for their business. So we're going to use that money we're going to use to be able to bring joy to other people during this crazy year. So that's what we're doing.
Love it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
How cool is it that to allow the parents to come in and actually choose the gifts specifically for their needs or wants for their kids? That's so awesome.
It's such a cool way to do it.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, if Matt, if you can send me over that link, make sure that I'll make sure to put it in the comments underneath here as this is posted out on social media. So
I'll do that right now.
Awesome, my friend. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
So, okay, guys, we only have a couple minutes left. And so, I don't know, Tim, do you know anything about this elf suit that Sharon's talking about? Is there an elf suit that we're missing out on today?
No.
I can only imagine.
I heard Buddy left.
I don't know about an elf suit, but I do want to wish everybody a first night of Hanukkah. Happy first night of Hanukkah. I know you'll all be lighting your candles out there tonight. We've got all of our menorahs set up at home. So if you are celebrating Hanukkah tonight, enjoy your latkes, your fried potato pancakes. I know you'll all enjoy them.
And really, this is we've got one more episode of this before we wrap it up for the year. So we'll be back next Thursday. Tim, I know you have so much information to share for folks, and I really want to make sure they have access to reaching out to you. So please feel free to reach out to Tim. I know that I've seen the marketing materials and the pieces that Tim has assembled for helping agents be successful around this. Oh, did I do something wrong, Tim?
No, I'm always trying to improve. So
okay, all right. Well, no. I'm like, did I spell something? I'm the guy who always misspells something someplace. So, but yes, thank you so much for participating today, Tim. It really was a lot of great information that we were able to share with everybody. And I don't know how Edgar's comment just keeps popping back up here, but it's just crazy the way that happens. But
Don, you look great.
Well, thanks, Jesse.
I love the spirit. I love the spirit. You're always on time with your decor and your dress.
Okay. Well, you guys, I hope you guys all have an amazing holiday season. I know I'll see you guys back here in the next couple of days or the next week. But you guys, and everybody who's watching, thank you so much. I'll make sure I get that the Affordable Christmas link posted in the comments. What a great cause. And Jesse and Mindy, you guys are just always doing something to give back to the community. And it's just amazing that you guys do as much as you guys do. So thank you guys all, and have a great rest of your week. And we look forward to seeing everybody back next week.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.